And you are on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeliji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Ache, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very ideal and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of oil-grid solution we will be looking at.
We are conducting mining today, solid minerals as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's the dawn of a new day, another opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, global issue, national development, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we'll continue our special series on the World Economic Forum taking place in Davos. One of the agenda for that forum is the issue of climate change, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Don't forget you can be part of this conversation by going on our social media platform on our YouTube page using the hashtag Early Exchange because it's your program. And like we always say, let your voice be heard. We hope that as you spend the next 2 hours with us will make your day worthwhile. We add value for your time. Just get set. It's going to be a 2-hour drive, and we assure you that you're going to get value for your time. I'm not alone. Blessing is here. Blessing, good morning.
Hello, Femi. Good morning.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm good.
You look cool.
Yes, we need to look cool, calm, collected. The 3 C's must be complete every day so you can think well and take the right decisions.
I love that rhyme, calm, collected.
Oh, yes.
That's
I could teach you so that
I'll be glad to be your
even as a gentleman, you could use that. Good morning. Thank you for joining us in Early Exchange. As always, we're poised to help you start your day, and we intend to do that by informing you of current happenings and helping you provide perspective to them. Straight away, let's get on to the news studio where Adesua Irimasole is waiting to update you.
Hello and welcome to the morning news update right here on Souq News. I'm Adesua Irimasole. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has approved a $941 million lending boost to Kenya, providing immediate relief to East African countries facing financial pressures. The disbursement, part of the Extended Fund Facility and Extended Credit Facility Program, includes $624.5 million, complemented by additional $60.2 million under the Resilient and Sustainability Facility Arrangement. With the Executive Board's approval, the total funding commitment from IMF to Kenya across all three facilities now exceeds $4.4 billion. Despite Kenya's grappling with acute liquidity challenges and uncertainties regarding assessing financial markets, and before a $2 billion Euro bond matures in June, IMF stated that Kenya's growth remains resilient amid external and domestic challenges. Moving on, due to an ongoing legal battle over patent with medical technology company Masimo Apple has announced that it would remove the blood oxygen monitoring feature from two flagship Apple Watch models in the US. The legal dispute, expected to take a year to resolve, prompted Apple to disable the feature on the Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra 2 model rather than withdrawing them from the US market. The decision followed a ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, preventing Apple from selling the models at the center of the patent infringement case. Despite Apple's disagreement with the ruling, the company stated that existing watches and those sold outside the U.S. would remain unaffected. The Apple Watch, constituting about a quarter of the global smartwatch market, is a significant contributor to Apple's wearable sales segment, generating $39.84 billion in revenue for fiscal 2023. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has given approval for the payment of renewal fees for the group life assurance of federal government workers. This was revealed by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Muhammad Idris, after the Federal Executive Council yesterday. The approval, which amounts to approximately 9.6 billion naira, will be distributed among 12 local insurance firms, covering federal workers in the event of unforeseen incidents during their duties. Similarly, the annual cover ensures financial support in cases of death or severe injury, with the aim to alleviate the impact of workers' families. Similarly, Nigeria's central bank has announced the clearance of the entire foreign exchange forwards liability of 14 banks and has initiated settlements with foreign airlines with approximately $7 billion in matured forex forwards. Concerns have mounted among investors due to ongoing foreign currency shortages impacting the naira currency. According to the Apex Bank spokesperson, Akama Sidi Ali, the bank has been able to pay about $2 billion so far across sectors like manufacturing, aviation, and petroleum. The bank also revealed that an independent forensic review commissioned by the bank has uncovered significant non-compliance and gross abuse of market regulations, leading to forthcoming sanctions on offenders in collaboration with relevant agencies. And in the Middle East, the UAE has revealed its intention to establish the world's first sustainability accreditation framework exclusively for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. The initiative, called EcoMark Global Accreditation, will enhance the competitiveness of MSMEs in the global green economy by standardizing and streamlining sustainability benchmarking processes worldwide. UAE Minister of State for Foreign Trade, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayodi, who announced this at the World Economic Forum in Davos, noted that the certification aligns with ISO standards, while stressing the role of MSMEs, particularly those led by underrepresented groups, in transitioning to a lower carbon economy. He emphasized the need for tailored support to unlock their potential in driving sustainability across value chains. And with that, we wrap up the morning news update right here on Souq News. I'm Adesua Eremoseli. Many thanks for watching.
All right, thank you, Adesua, for the news update. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll kick off our major conversation with our special guest. Stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timida Kolo, and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News for everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news. Souq News is your station.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
all right, glad to know you're still there with us. The World Economic Forum started on Monday, and several issues have been of concerns to world leaders, to CEOs. Part of the issue has to be the issue of climate change, the issue of energy that's been of global concern. According to the report released from the World Economic Forum, about 14.5 million deaths are expected to take place in the year between now and the year 2050, according to the report being released, and this might likely occur because of climate change. It's also been predicted that there will be business losses to the tune of $12 trillion. Why should this be of concern to us? And that's why we need to look at it at this forum to talk about the impact of climate change. Our guest is going to be here shortly to react to this report and to also give us the importance of the activities that we need to do when it comes to the issue of climate change. But let me bring this discussion to Blessing. You know, the ongoing World Economic Forum taking place in Davos started on Monday, and several issues have been on the front burner. We talked about the issue of AI, which was exactly what we talked about yesterday. And now another issue that is of concern to world leaders, to CEOs, to executives, to head of states has to be the issue of climate change. Now, the report being released from that forum says that come the year 2050, about 14.5 million deaths are being expected as a result of climate change. And you know, when it comes to the issue of climate change, you talk about, you know, the weather condition of a region. When it talks about the temperature, you talk about the windiness, you talk about the rainfall. But most importantly, why this is of concern is because the issue of climate change is being influenced by human activities, by what we do, you and I do every day. And that's why it's of concern. It's going to affect businesses as well. The projection is businesses are going to lose to about $12 trillion come the year 2050. So we are in the year 2024. The steps being taken between now and the year 2050 is quite strategic, and that's why world leaders are looking at that direction to see what can be done individually, as organization, and as a country to ensure that the right activities are put in place to ensure that mitigate the effect of climate change before the projection is being achieved. Now, some of the CEOs also are also raising the concerns that it's going to affect their businesses, going to lead to job losses if these issues are not being tackled now. But there's another dimension to the conversation. You know, I was listening to one of the keynote speakers who also raised the concern that yes, we are always quick to say there's a need to maintain carbon neutrality, you know, carbon emission in the society. Yes, we'll call it pollution. But he also came up with another narrative that, okay, what we call pollution, you know, which is the major source of carbon dioxide, what you call carbon dioxide, you know, I used to be a science student, so I understand. So, but the speaker brought this narrative that, okay, you call it, to humans, they are pollutions, but when it comes to animals, they need carbon dioxide to survive, so you know.
More trees.
You know, so he also emphasized on the need for us to strike a balance, even though to human, that is, you know, more of a negative impact. But to the plants, you know, and then such is necessary for them to survive. So if you are saying carbon neutrality or seeing carbon dioxide as something of outright negativity, it might not be the issue. So they are coming up with that narrative, but let's see what our guests will have to say about it. Okay, we'll go on a short break now.
All right, before we go on that break,
Okay.
you know that the World Economic Forum actually came up with a global risk report for 2024. And the first three in that list happened to be environmental risk, which were made up of extreme weather events, critical change to the earth system, biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse, and then natural resource shortages. All these are environmental issues. And so that is why the World Economic Forum at Davos is bringing leaders to talk about what to do, long-term strategy, not just in the interim, what can be done, because they've come to understand that these are long-term structural challenges that will need a lot of adjustment, will need a lot of new innovations to deal with. And yes, they're coming up with some solutions, but you know that the solutions are also being met with challenges too, like that of the trees needing what is harmful to us, the CO2 that is being emitted into the atmosphere. You understand that because of the design of some cities, making that happen is going to be challenging, but of course the West can find a way around it, even if it means that what you have around will not have roots into the ground, but somehow you have these trees just around to absorb. But how much of it can they absorb? Now, this are some of the things we'll look at. What can we do? Because there's also the advocacy for the move away from fossil fuel. But according to the UN Secretary General at his presentation at Davos yesterday, he was saying that the world needs to make efforts to have an equitable transition away from fossil fuel. So that means that it has to be every country, every part of the world, not some parts of the world taking it seriously and moving away from fossil fuel, but all around we need to have this commitment into the transition away from fossil fuel into renewable energy. This and some of the other things we'll look at as the show progresses today.
All right, let's go on a short break for us to reconnect with our guest. Let's see what he will have to say to this report. Stay with us.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Olatunji Shotimirin. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked to CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
My name is Olatunji Shotimirin. I'm a performing artist and television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timidakolo and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you're still there with us. We're looking at the issue of climate change, which is one of the issues that has been on the table when it comes to the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos. The conference started on Monday and several issues have been looking at, but the issue of climate change is what we want to focus on today. Don't forget you can be part of this conversation by going on our social media platform, on our YouTube page using the hashtag #EarlyExchange. What's your view as regards the subject of climate change in your environment? What do you think we should do as a nation? Nigerian delegates are there. As soon as they return, what do you expect them to do? This issue is of concern to everyone because the report released by the World Economic Forum says about $12.5 trillion economic losses is imminent when it comes to the issue of climate change. Let me give you background to the report as well. The report says by 2050, climate change is likely to cause an additional 4.5 million deaths. This is according to the report released from Davos. Then the greatest risk is posed by flooding, which according to this report, there are key consequences of climate change. And according to the study, number one on the list is the issue of floods, drought, heat waves, tropical storms, forest fire, and rising sea levels. Let me ask Blessing, are you bothered?
Of course, I think it's something that should bother everyone, but the reason some persons are not bothered, particularly in this region, because it seems to be something that is far off. We don't seem to think that climate change is already happening. But I think for those who belong to that school of thought, then they should think again, because the weather that we have, take for instance the weather in Nigeria, we used to know that predominantly we have the rainy and dry season. So, but now we do not know, and then the rainy season used to be like from about March to October, but now it's almost year round. And you don't know when the Harmattan comes and when the Harmattan goes. So it's just a pointer to the fact that, of course, climate change is real and we need to begin to take deliberate actions towards it. Now, for some persons, they would love to take different actions than they are doing right now, but they are constrained by some factors, which a lot of times is economical. So for those, if we talk about moving away from fossil fuel, for instance, our mainstay or the mainstay of Nigeria as of now is still oil, and that means that you are producing fossil fuel. So for a country that sustains on fossil fuel, asking them to transition away from fossil fuel is asking at this point in time to do the impossible. So these are some of the issues. And then for even globally, the world at this point cannot just move away from fossil fuel, because recall that not too long ago, Europe was dealing, and to an extent still dealing, with energy shortages, and that became more profound with the Russia-Ukraine war, where Russia had to weaponize energy, so that is an issue. A lot of them had to substitute, even the energy that was being supplied still is fossil fuel. So it's a global challenge. It's a global challenge that should make all of us scared. You talked about the projection for the next 50 years being about 12 million deaths. Now, over the last 50 years, about 2 million deaths have been recorded, and a loss of $4.3 trillion have been recorded economically. So this is something that, whether or not people realize it, the effect of it is grand. The effect of it is great. So we need to pay attention a lot to some of these environmental challenges. And luckily, or good enough, we're beginning to have ecopreneurs, people who are innovating ways to handle environmental challenges. But it will be counterproductive if some persons are finding solutions and a lot of people are contributing greatly to the challenge. Let's look at one of the challenges first, which has been listed as one of the top 10 risks for the next 10 years, which is extreme weather events. Now, we're having different kinds of weather issues happening. Natural disasters happen. that are being precipitated by extreme weather conditions. You could even tell by the temperature increase that we're having. Now, when was the last time we had, or when I say we, I'm talking about Nigeria, because that's where we're reaching you live from. When was the last time you had temperature as low as 23 degrees Celsius? It's been a long time. Now, temperatures rises as high as 33 degrees Celsius on a day that you would think, oh, it's not supposed to be so sunny, well, maybe when we're even in the rainy season. So these are things that make us understand that the weather also is changing. And even for the other climes, sometimes they have a temperature so low, it's so cold, you know, and these are some of the things that really should make one scared. If it is like this now, how will it be over the next 10 years if real actions are not taken to ensure that the effect of climate change are handled?
Talking about action, you know, there's always a say that when you fail to plan, you are planning to fail.
Yes.
So that's why issues like this couldn't be taken with pinch of salt. That's why world leaders have, you know, coming together to table to talk about it. And I'm happy we have our delegates there who also are aware of the responsibility at home. You know, when it comes to the issue of climate change, yeah, you can say, you know, there's call of nature. But however, you know, climate change is also influenced by human activities, industrial activities, you know, the release of pollution into the air, the burning of fossil fuel and all that, which is why the conversation about, you know, electric cars, you know, because, you know, the source of, you know, emission, you know, comes from the use of petrol vehicles. And that's why the conversation towards electric car is also ongoing in Nigeria. What I'm more concerned is what we're going to do as far as a nation to mitigate the effect of climate change. Yes, we can say it's a global thing, but for us, it's also inevitable. It's something that affects, in fact, a few days ago, I was speaking with somebody, a friend of mine, who told me where he was. You know, there was Harmattan, and I was like, okay, here in Lagos, we don't have something like that. And this is January. Why are we still having, you know, that's part of what we're talking about, you know, where you don't have control over it, you know, and things change. And then, but it's also important as a nation for us to have a plan. And I'm happy that the minister in charge, they are doing all they can do to put up, you know, climate change activities and to see what they can mitigate it first. But what we need to do as a nation is to create what we call proper orientation. You know, how many Nigerians are aware of the importance of this challenge? You know, what are we doing as a nation? So there's a need for proper education for people to understand why what they do will either influence negatively or positively to the issue of climate change. A good example is industrial activities that take place around us. You know, there's need for regulation for people to understand that the impact will also affect every one of us, because the issue of climate change will affect lives, we affect businesses, we affect every facet of life, and that's why it's important for us to talk about it. Now, according to this report, it said flooding alone could cause 8.5 million deaths by 2050. You know, people always say, no, the death is not my portion. You know, there's always that religious.
So whose portion is it?
But when you have a report like this, it's not to create fear or panic, but it's just to give room for people to take up responsibility so that we'll work towards it and it won't become a reality. So the report says flooding alone could cause 8.5 million deaths by 2050, not only directly but also indirectly through crop damage, increased infectious diseases, higher humidity, which can lead to respiratory diseases. So the issue of health also comes in. Apart from the fact that the environmental damage that's going to come up with it, you have the issue of health. It affects lives, animals, and that's why it's of more importance. So what I feel should be done is by the time our delegates return, we should be able to have a proper report. It is one thing to have a global report from the World Economic Forum, but I also expect that the delegates will come up with another report that will reflect the peculiarity of our environment, reflecting the challenges, what we need to do as a nation to ensure that their own recommendations to ensure that these things are being managed. Talking about...
Sorry to cut in. This is where data localism will be very, very important. It is time that every region, every country, every state even do their own local assessment. What is the impact of the climate change on the environment? What is the impact of various industrial activities on the environment? The local data is necessary because it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Now, what may be needed in a place like the US may not be the exact same solution needed in any country in Africa. So it has to be particular. The solution has to be fit for the challenge. So we need to every country needs to begin to gather their own local data and proffer solutions that are peculiar to the challenge.
The issue of data has been a challenge over there. I agree with you. The necessity of data when it comes to planning, you know, but that has been challenging over the years because we don't have a reliable national data. You have that NIMC, you know, which is supposed to be the ideal one. But I remember the Minister of Interior recently talked about, you know, this disparity where you have another data with NIMC, then when you want to do your driver's license and all that, you have another data with FRSC, and then when it comes to your banking transactions, you have your BVN, you know. We have a situation where there's disparity where one person, you know, could claim, you know, 3 identity or 3 names because of the disparity. And presently is working in that direction to ensure that even the issue of passport, that's why it's been very difficult over the years to digitalize it. An effort is being made, according to the minister, that by March, Nigeria will be able to access, you know, process or renew your passport without going to the passport office. You know, that's what data will do. So it's been of a challenge over the years, but there's a need for us to work as a nation in respect to the issue of data, because when it comes to climate change, these are things, the kind of research or researches that could take place locally towards tackling the issue of climate change start with having the right data for government agencies to plan and to even educate people. Another issue being raised is the issue of flooding or floods, you know, which is also very prevalent in the environment. It's something people are not fully aware of what they need to do. You just see people building on water channels, and as a result of that, it's also causing another chaos and damage to the society. Also, with the issue of flooding, you discover that several human activities that are being done in the environment to ensure that you know, proper urban planning is being done. You discover that it's not there, you know, and it starts from there. If proper urban planning is being done, people release their water just to the street. You know, even some industries, they do that. If you go to industrial area, the level of damage you've seen in those areas, you'll be disturbed. And so this is part of what we need to do as a nation, proper regulation to ensure that people do due diligence, the right thing, to ensure that we mitigate the effect of climate change in the environment.
Yes, and as the attention is on climate, it's also on nature, and it's also on energy. These 3 things go together to ensure that the earth is habitable for every one of us, and we get to enjoy the earth. Now, you've been talking about the pollution activities that happens around the waterways and how people even block the water channels. Is that what they don't realize sometimes is water eventually will find its level. Now you're building on water channel, where do you expect the water to go to? So the water is also going to find its level, and with that it's going to come with a lot of force, and that's why we see that flooding has become a recurring thing. It's almost an annual event, if not more than annual event. You find that people who live around the coastal areas worst heat when things like that happen. So it's time for everyone to begin to take the right action. Do not think that, oh, there are things you've been doing. Even how do people dispose their waste? You find that some persons wait for it to be raining before they want to dispose their waste. They think the water will carry the waste. But what they don't understand is that, okay, you're putting waste into water for the floods to push the waste to where? It's going to push it to somewhere else, and it's going to get stuck. So at the end of the day, these things have a boomerang effect on everybody. So that's why no one can just say, oh, it doesn't concern me. What I do here, it doesn't concern me. For industries too, by regulation, yes, governments of every nation must begin to hold industries accountable. Now, if you have companies that are into exploration, then you must also ensure that they do not flare gas, because they are compounding the issues. If you have companies that are into mining, how do they carry out their mining? You know, these are some of the things that we need to consider. The actions that we take, are we just considering the benefits of the now? What about the losses? What about the damages that it is causing to nature, causing to the environment, the long-term effect of these things? They must be considered and find a way to go around it. I mentioned that ecopreneurs are finding innovative solutions to these things, and there are better ways to carry out certain industrial activities that at the end of the day, it is nature positive. Then by all means, they should be considered. Because at the time that COP28 was being held in Dubai in 2023, at that same time, scientists confirmed that 23 had been the hottest year on record. Now, the Earth's global average surface temperature was more than 2 degrees Celsius higher than pre-industrial level. That's just for 2023. Over the next 10 years, how will it be?
All right, over the next 10 years, how will it be? That's the kind of conversation we're going to have with our guests shortly. We'll take this time out. When we return, we'll continue our conversation on the issue of climate change. Stay with us.
The Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is in no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodu Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodu Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the eco-greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, Souq, Enlightenment.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company, mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, our obligation is to shape policy and advance development with our conversation. That's why we're looking at the issue of climate change, because it's very crucial at this time. Now that the World Economic Forum has to make it an issue that has to be talked about. To look at how this will affect Africa and by extension Nigeria, we're being joined by in-house analyst, Souq. Glad you have you join us on the exchange.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and I'm happy you.
Good morning.
You called me up and I'm part of this. Thank you very much, Blessing.
That's patriotic of you. All right, you know, the report coming from the World Economic Forum says 14.5 million deaths are likely come the year 2050 as a result of the issue of climate change. I know that bothers you. So how do you react to this kind of report?
It's sad. It's very sad. When we have conferences and forums like this, we get to see world leaders, organization leaders, and high-net individuals come together and they say a whole lot of things and put things on paper. But the sad reality for a lot of African countries, majorly those Eastern countries and some part of Western African countries, that we are not talking about climate change anymore. We are living it. We see it on a daily basis. And it's also part of things that are resulting to conflict, armed conflict. And so for some part of Latin, the Americas too, they are also feeling it. We on this side, we are having drought. They on that side, they are having ocean surge. The sea and ocean levels there are rising, and they are completely losing normal lands where the Aborigines were living. Now they can't live there anymore. But on this side, we are having serious doubts. And we need to go beyond the forums. We need to go beyond putting pen on paper and saying things and start doing the work.
All right, now, moving from just paper, putting pen to paper and doing the work, what kind of work is needed? There's still a kind of blame game here when we talk about climate change, and you have some region accusing other region of being the most contributor to the climate issues that we're having. For instance, Africa region feeling like they have not contributed much to the climate change as much as the West, and so some form of funding should be provided to eradicate or to control these issues. What are your thoughts on this?
On that, I will say this: we are all guilty. Now, the percentage of of the guilt now differ, but we are all guilty. There are petrol cars in every country, in every region. Even the villages have petrol cars. So you are contributing a little. We used to have lead in our fuel before it was banned. So you imagine the amount of brain damage it was given to children. But there was a policy, a deliberate policy. I would say, good, remove this from fuel. So now it's the same thing here. Now, I think it was the president of Kenya a year ago. He was saying this: everybody there should be a tax for everybody pushing carbon monoxide in the air. There should be a tax for those on this place that is helping desertification by cutting down trees. There should be a tax. So everybody should pay. So not looking whether you're poor or rich, everybody should pay. Now you pay according to the amount you emit. I don't know if you understand. Good. You can't tell me a country that has over 1,000 or more than that fleet of airlines will pay the same as maybe an airpiece. I don't know. Just put the percentage down. This is the percentage. For anything you do, this is the percentage. So if you have a country like, let's say, Germany, that is bringing back the coal factories, the coal thermal energy, and all of them, all because they can't get oil from, from Russia, and they are bringing up the coal. Good, pay the tax. So let it be a level. Don't say because I'm African or because I'm from Europe or I'm from the Middle East. No, if I am flaring gas, I should pay the tax. That way, it will be no one is owing or looking down or helping anybody, because in the long run, we'll suffer this. Nobody is immune. I'll give you a typical example. A lot of the immigration happening from East Africa, you think those guys living in Somalia, they are living there because of poverty. Yes, but it's environmental issues. They can't stay in their village anymore. And you think France is free? No, they are moving there. So you wake up in the news and you see 10,000 guys from East Africa just arrived Italy. That is the problem. That is part of the problem. So imagine if Kano State or Bauchi or Sokoto or Kebbi, half that population decide to move to France. Will France be able to accommodate them? No. So I don't know if you're saying the long run. Now we keep logging trees this way and thinking is what do they even call it? There's a name they call it around here. We keep logging and logging and logging, and
we think it's development. We're opening up certain areas.
We are losing the chances to bring back oxygen and take out the CO2 that is going into the atmosphere. But we think it's development. It's not. So with time, you get to see that let's even start from the diseases we've had over time. A lot of this is direct impact between human and wildlife. Things that were stuck in the forest is now coming too close to humans. To what is happening? We are knocking out the forest. They don't have a habitat anymore.
Is there a way to create a balance? Because if those areas that development, so to speak, is getting into, is there a way to create a balance that while development gets into those areas, nature is also preserved?
Yes, this is where government comes in. If government should stay by force, what I mean by force, these are reserved areas. You can't go beyond this. I don't know if
it's not that we don't.
But it's not implemented. Those same places you call reserved areas, if you see in front of them,
governments, you have them. That's what I'm saying.
Or we have them.
You go there and maybe from the gate they are reserved, but when you get in, it's not reserved. Let's not talk about the forest reserves. From the road, you see the trees, but once you go after the first 500 meters, you'll be so shocked that it's plain land that is inside. All the trees that have been logged. So now, how can we deal with this? So these are things that African nations are grappling with. We need to enforce. We need to keep enforcing. Some years back, let's bring it home. Some years back, the Atlantic Ocean came visiting. I don't know if you remember. People were literally swimming in their bedroom. It's the same thing. The sea level is going up. And we are praying it doesn't happen again. But will it? Yes, it will. We now have it, it's not now normal. Every year from Enugu to Lokoja, that expressway, that used to be very high if you fly that way. There is even a bridge. It used to be the longest bridge in Nigeria. It will rise to the extent that you can't cross that bridge.
Don't you think, this could be largely attributed to lack of public awareness? Because if you look at other climes, an average person in the Western one have a proper education when it comes to the issue of climate change compared to Africa, where there's no proper education. And then, so what should be done to improve the level of, let me use the word literacy when it comes to the subject of climate change, and for people to really understand that they have to own this process to create a sense of belonging?
Okay, that's a good one. Growing up, we used to have, I used to be a Boy Scout. There are a lot of activities and a lot of societies that we've lost over time. And one of the actions of the Boy Scout was going into communities and planting trees. I think we need to revisit, and we need that kind of education. Right, the children should be taught. They should be taught what nature is to them, how they relate with nature. And if you own something and know something, then you can take care of it. If we don't groom and pass this information to everyone and tell them, hey, if we don't take care of this environment, we won't have another one. We go to a lot of villages, their mainstay for energy is firewood and coal. By now, it shouldn't be. Because the rate at which you chop down the trees is not the same rate at which the tree will grow. So some villages that used to have forest, the forest is gone. So for all those movies I used to hear, the Dibia is in the forest. The Dibia doesn't have any forest anymore. The Dibia is now living in the town. So we need that education. Everyone should be involved. Everyone should be involved. That education is a continuum. It doesn't stop. It should never ever stop.
All right. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the Davos Summit yesterday was saying that the world needs to take action to ensure a just and equitable transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. How would that be possible? Is it possible to have equitable transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy?
This argument, it will keep going back and forth. On this argument, this is business. I don't know if you understand. This is business. If we ask ourselves, if you go to the stock market now, what are the first 10 highest trading stocks? If you leave technology, the next place you go to is oil. So if you are telling the world needs to leave and go to renewable, how fast can you do that? I don't know if you understand. There's still a whole lot of dependence on fossil fuel. Now we could now say, okay, let's start phasing out gradually. But another thing is this: when hands are pointed on this particular topic, a lot of hammer is coming on Africa.
Why?
Are you telling Africa to leave fossil fuel? Right now, what other backbone do we have? I'm talking as an African right now. What other backbone do we have? The West have been able to use fossil fuel to grow their economy. Some particular countries in the West right now, there is no drop of fossil fuel in their ground. They've explored everything. They're now importing. So right now, Africa still has the highest, comparatively, one of the highest deposits. And we have not been able to grow our economy. So we need something to grow our economy. So there has to be a balance somewhere. I don't know, there definitely have to be a balance somewhere. Shell is about leaving Nigeria and selling their oil fields. Whether you're living or not, people are queuing up to take it. I don't know if you understand. Like, who tells you that they're not even going to do it by proxy? So there has to be a balance somewhere. If you're telling me to stop using my phone and use something, give me options. Yeah, give me options.
Well, ecopreneurs are developing innovative, coming up with innovations to help deal with these issues of environmental challenge. Because according to the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report for 2024, environmental risk was the top 4. Do you think that these innovations will help deal to a good extent with these environmental challenges?
Yes. I think they say small drops make a mighty ocean, isn't it? So no matter how small the drop is welcome. The thing is this: we have to start somewhere. Then we also have to see the business in what we're doing. Now, the more we invest in green energy, the better for everybody. But it needs a lot of investment. A lot of investment. And most times I will say things as it concerns we on this side of the divide. 90% of the technology on green energy is not coming from Africa. We are majorly consumers. So if for every company, for every organization, for every firm starting up, call it whatever energy you want to call it, they are set up for profit. So nobody is going to carry their technology and give it to you for free because of the color of your skin or because they want to tell you to leave fossil fuel. So there has to be, we have to strike a balance. You make your profit, yes, but you don't make a chunk of the profit off me. So if we have investment in green energy, yes. Another funny side of it is that most of these resources you need for that particular green energy also comes from Africa. So that investment should come here. They shouldn't stay there and give us the rhetorics. They should come here and invest in green energy. That way, we on this side can partner, and everybody is a win-win. The more we have windmills, the less we depend on oil-based refineries, the less we depend on energy coming from crude. The more we have now, another issue is this: by the time we say, okay, if we divide some of these things, we will see that it's not always that advantageous. If we say EVs for cars, okay. EVs for, are you going to put EVs on the plane? EVs for train, okay, it's on ground. Now, at the end of the day, how do you dispose the waste from EVs? This is another thing nobody is talking about. How do you dispose those particular battery waste? Because whether you like it or not, at a particular point in time, that battery is going to be done. So whether you're going to be able to reuse, right now that technology is not open for everybody. Maybe somebody is holding it and hiding it somewhere.
So at some point, waste is still going to be created.
Yes, waste is still going to be created. So are we going to say this waste is, if we put it side by side with what is happening to the environment, okay, this outweighs this, let's go for that. So we really need to sit down and say, okay, this is favorable to everybody. Because this race for green energy on the other side is business. I don't know if you understand. And whoever is championing and winning, it's just like the race for oil. Now this is for good. But is a race.
All right, thank you very much, Regis, for being with us this morning on Early Exchange, looking at long-term strategy for climate, nature, and energy as the world grapples with the challenges that have come up with the environment and looking for ways to address these challenges. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, when we're done with Early Exchange, we'll take a quick break and return to look at the business and economic environment of Nigeria. Stay tuned.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893. being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're on to Early Exchange, where we shape policy and advance development with our conversation. Now we want to look at the report suggesting the exit of multinational companies in Nigeria. A lot of multinational companies in Nigeria are either leaving Nigeria or scaling down their operation. To shed more light on these and lend his voice to this conversation, we are being joined by Dr. Femi Egbeshola. He is the president of the Association of Small Business Owners in Nigeria. Dr. Egbeshola, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning.
Good morning, and
Permit
thank you
me
for
to
having
say
me.
Happy New Year, since this is your first appearance on the show this year, Dr. Egbeshola.
Yes, it is. Happy New Year to you and your team.
I hope you can hear me, Dr. Egbeshola.
Yes, I can hear you. Happy New Year to you and your team.
Great. Glad you. Okay. Now, I would like you to react to this report suggesting the exit of multinational companies in Nigeria. You know, it's alarming and it's disturbing because some of these multinational companies, they are into goods and services that are of necessity to the nation. How do you react to this kind of news, and what are the factors you think are responsible for this kind of exodus?
Well, it's not a good news. It's a disturbing news. We are not happy about it, particularly as a stakeholder in the MSME sector. And to us, it is a situation that the government needs to begin to get concerned about and look at how they can mitigate against further exits of these multinationals from our country. There are so many issues that are of concern to those who have left and those who are also thinking of leaving the country. Some of it is because of the forest issues that we have. Quite a number of these manufacturing companies have difficulty accessing forests. They have difficulty accessing forests, and forest is used to get their inputs, their equipment to the country for their production processes. For others manufacturing country, they also need forests to repatriate their profit back to their mother country. This has not been possible because of unavailability of forests. And you know, multinationals will not want to go to the black market. In fact, the black market may not have the volume of dollar that they will need for their transactions. Another challenge has been the issue of of power. Power has been a big, big challenge. Now that subsidy is fully removed, it's difficult to run operations on diesel generator alone. It will have been cheaper and easier to have power supplied by government electricity, but power has been unavailable and been erratic, and it is also becoming more expensive. And that's one big issue that is affecting manufacturers, particularly the multinationals in the country. We also have the issue of insecurity. Insecurity is everywhere. Some of them sell their products to far north where there is a serious insecurity, and that's mitigating against business and eroding their profits. And that's a big one. Inflation too is another challenge that quite a number of these multinationals have complained about. The cost of raw materials is going up on a daily basis, and by the time this cost is being put down to the throat of the consumers also have less purchasing power. It means they have to sell less of what they used to sell before, and that means less profit for them. And some of these companies has targets to meet in terms of sales, in terms of profits, and when this is not met, it impacts negatively on their performance, and at times it may lead to their exit. And that's some of the reasons why these companies are exiting. Our infrastructure too is not too good. It's difficult now to connect interlands because many of the routes are bad, and these products move from the urban cities to the interland for sales. We also have the issue of corruption. Corruption is also another big threat to manufacturing. Many of these manufacturers find it difficult to deal with some government officials because of kickbacks and the rest. The policies of some of these companies does not really support kickbacks, PR, or whatever you call it, in the name of corruption. These are some of the issues that are mitigating against business, and this is why some of them are leaving. Yes, we also have global issues that is causing the exit or death of some of these companies, because even if you look around other countries, you discover that they have also relocated from some other countries, not just Nigeria alone. But over here, we have our perennial issues that has been there for many times, and government needs to begin to work about it. Policy issues also is another big issue. Government needs to look at our fiscal policies and see how they can redress them to address the concerns of today. Some of the policies we have does not live in tandem with the realities of today. It has to be reviewed. Some of them has to be replaced, and let them help to increase ease of doing business. I think the ease of doing business should be a great concern to government now, because these are the people, the organizations, the industries that are housing jobbers. And when these companies are leaving, it means there will be more joblessness. And when there are more joblessness, of course, insecurity and crime will continue to increase.
All right. According to reports, at least 20,000 jobs have been lost in about 3 years from the exit of 15 companies from Nigeria. You have read out a lot of reasons why some of these companies are leaving. But beyond job loss, what other effect is it having on the Nigerian economy?
Yes, starting from the job loss, I think that figure of 20,000 is being very conservative. The figures are much more than that. And when we are talking of getting our youth more engaged, we should be concerned if there's any reason for companies to now be dropping their staff and increasing the population of the job market. That's a big concern also. Beyond the issue of job losses, we have this concern that investors will become disenfranchised from wanting to bring their funds to Nigeria. It discourages investors from choosing Nigeria as a destination point. The president and his team have been going around the country canvassing for investors to come to the country. But on the other hand, you discover that these investors also do their own due diligence. They do their own investigation to see if really the country is fertile enough for the investment. When multinationals are leaving, it gives a very negative signal to other investors that Nigeria may not be the best place to put their money, and that's not too good. If we want to increase our GDP GDP, if we want to grow our economy, we need more investors in the country. Beyond that, too, like I did mention the other time, it also increases crime, because when these jobbers lose their jobs, it means that they just must find a way to make ends meet. One of the ways they will engage themselves in is illegal source of funding when they could not get a legal source of funding. Some of these illegal source of funding may be crime and illegality, and that's why we see a lot of people go into Yahoo and the Japan syndrome and the rest of it. That is not good for our economy and for our brand as a nation. And it should also be a serious concern. Another issue is the fact that by the time this company leaves, technology also leaves with them. Many of these multinationals come with different technology from time to time, and our indigenes here learn from them on a regular basis in internship and the rest. And when they leave, technology also lives with them. For us to grow our economy, we also need technology, modern, up-to-date technology on how to do this, how to do that, how to process this and that. And they are one of the great sources of technology in the country that it's also a serious issue as they are living now with their different kind of technologies. We also have the issue of support. Many of these companies give support in different forms of government. The first one is taxes. They pay taxes. Taxes increase the revenue of governments. They also do a lot of CSR, corporate social responsibility, in different areas, particularly in their immediate communities. When they leave, that also lives with them. And that also is a negative indicator for us as a country.
Now, let's look at the vacuum being created by the exit of these multinational companies. Don't you think this should be like a blessing in disguise for our local investors or the local companies who are here to take advantage of this vacuum to take up the challenge and also show their expertise? If this is the narrative, why do you think it's becoming a challenge too for the local entrepreneurs to take advantage of this vacuum?
Well, ordinarily, it should have been a plus for us locally, for our companies, our manufacturers to take their space and grow better. But unfortunately, we are not prepared enough for it yet. We are not prepared enough for it. It takes a lot of fund and investment to house and have quite a number of investment that these multinationals have put into place over the years. Some of them are 70, 80, 30 years in business in Nigeria, and they have expanded so much. They have a lot of resources, they have a lot of capacity that our local manufacturers do not have. And that being the case, it will take us some time to get there. So when they leave now, there are a lot of gaps. And you know that Nigeria is a consuming nation. It means that if this company leaves and the local manufacturers are unable to fill that gap, it will also begin to encourage more importation of some of these products and services that they render. We need government now to begin to see how they can build up the capacity of the local manufacturers to be able to fill the gap. And a lot has to be done with that. It's not a short-term project, it's a long-term project, and we may not be able to meet those needs at the immediate. So it's an advantage, but it is not what we are prepared for now.
In the interim that the small businesses or the indigenous companies cannot fill the vacuum, it then means that this product that used to be, for instance, some product that used to be produced here will be imported. So it's an opportunity for the importers.
Yes, it's a big opportunity for the importers. It's a big, big opportunity for the importers. Like I did mention, quite a number of the local manufacturers, micro, small, medium, and big, or that are local manufacturers, does not have the capacity to produce the number of products that these companies are churning out. So it means there is now a gap to be filled, and it is going to be filled most likely by imported products. Also, too, is the fact that it takes quite a lot of work to get your product to certain standards. These multinationals have been able to bring their product in tandem with international standards in our markets. Those that are in the micro small businesses have not been able to do that. And it will take also some time for them to be able to achieve this. And that means that those that are already used to this kind of standard products, no matter what you tell them, may not want to come down the ladder to come and begin to patronize the less standard ones. Then that means they will also continue to fall back to the imported ones. And that's not what we should begin to preach or support in the country. We must now have a policy direction to address this challenge right and now, so that we will mitigate those challenges and risks that comes along importation of this kind of products to our shores here in Nigeria.
Now, let's talk about the ease of doing business. When you look at the last ranking, Nigeria is just below the ladder. Now, what are the challenges confronting, having a proper business environment when it comes to ease of doing business in Nigeria? And how can these challenges be, tackled for Nigeria to have a better rating when it comes to ease of doing business?
Well, the first has to do with the policy of governments. Policy must be in tandem with the realities of the day. Policies, I think, most often than not, are mismatched, and we have quite a number of policies, somersault here and there, and it has to be addressed. One best way to address these policies is for governments to see how they can engage stakeholders in the formulation, implementing, and co-owning of those policies. For example, in the manufacturing sector or in the MSME sector, if government must make policies, they must invite these critical stakeholders in this sector to be part of the policy. When government does policy on their own, there will always be gaps, and it will bring in efficiency in the implementation and the monitoring of those policies. And that's one major problem that has been affecting us in the country at the moment. Beyond that too, there is need for government to also see to it that there must always be an alternative for any major policy issues. For example, the issue of the removal of fuel subsidy. By the time removal of fuel subsidy came in, it drops our ranking in ease of doing business because it increases the difficulty of doing business. We would have expected that by the time subsidy is to be removed, there will have been certain form of palliatives on ground, certain form of intervention on ground that will cushion the effect of the subsidy removal immediately. Yes, the government promised that there will be some intervention fund, but as we speak today, it's about 8 or 9 months down the lane. There is nothing that has been done, and it means that there's nothing to cushion that effect, and that continues to put the ease of doing business to a challenge in Nigeria. We also have the issue of other indicators that does not support ease of doing business. Some of this is the issue of Forex. Forex makes it very, very difficult to do business in Nigeria now because most of our inputs, most of our equipments are still being imported. And when you do not have access to Forex, or Forex is too expensive to purchase, then it becomes very difficult for you to do business. And that's one of the reasons why some of these companies, not just multinationals now, even the local companies are folding up. Statistics shows that about 20% of businesses have folded up in the last 2 years. And that's not supporting ease of doing business. And they're all folding up because of these common denominators that we keep mentioning time and again and again.
All right, let's look at standardization. Now, some indigenous companies may want to scale up or try to fill the vacuum. What can be done to ensure that what they do, what the service they render, the products that they produce are of standard?
Well, good enough, we have regulatory bodies that ensure that standards are being kept and met in Nigeria. Particularly, we have NAFDAC, we have Standard Organization of Nigeria. But I must also let you know that they do not have enough human resources and capacity to ensure that standards are met in all the industries we have in the country. We have quite a number of companies doing fake products and nobody is talking about them because nobody is even aware that some of these companies are existing. The few ones that are being showcased on television or in the media are about 1-2% of those that are engaged in fake production. We also have those that are not even registered at all. They're not registered with NAFTA, they're not registered with SON, and they are in the business and they are flooding the market with their products. The resources, the human resources of some of these regulators are so low compared to the business activity in the country. For those who even submit themselves to regulation, many of these companies are being checked and inspected time and again to ensure that the standard they say they have at the point of start is what they still confirm and comply to in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in their production business. That's another challenge. Then even too, you discover that when it comes to standard, it takes a lot of effort. Government needs to also see to it that the capacity of those in businesses to build them up to be able to meet with international standard is also part of government business. They must continue to earmark funds for capacity building trainings, workshop conferences to teach all these MSMEs how to build standards, how to maintain standards, and how to improve on the existing standard, and how to use technology also to improve the existing standard that they may already have had. This may not be possible for some of these MSMEs because they may not have the fund, but government is in charge and should be interested in growing the economy. And one way of doing so is building the capacities of these MSMEs to be able to achieve maximum standardization of their products. It is when these products are standard enough that they cannot compete with the international markets, we cannot begin to talk of exports and then begin to earn foreign exchange into the country and ease the tension that we have in the forex market as at the moment.
All right, the conversation is getting more interesting, but we need to go on a short break now. We'll be right back to discuss more with our guest. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemere Glover.
Naomi. Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enuowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamaze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is a bismarck. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, glad to know you're still there with us. We're looking at the exit of multinational companies in Nigeria. Same way it's affecting all these multinational companies, even the local companies here are not exempted. And we still have our guest with us. We still have Dr. Femi Egbeshola with us. Glad to know you're still there with us, Dr. Egbeshola. All right, while we wait for Dr. Egbeshola, he talked about the issue of Forex. Part of the reasons, those multinational companies are leaving Nigeria. The same way it's affecting the multinational companies, also affecting the local operators here because it's a global thing. And the fact that, the Nigerian economy is import-driven, and so anything that happens to foreign currency will always affect our local currency, which is Naira. So if you look at the exchange rate now, it's killing for businesses because to sustain that, it means that you have to, even with the peculiarity of our environment, you have to source from the parallel market because to source from the official market, it takes a while because of the ease of getting it from the parallel market. But if you look at the disparity, the rate at which it's being exchanged, it's something. And one thing about business owners is, when you have that kind of development, it's going to add up to the cost of businesses, the cost of operation, and that's being transferred to the end users. And that's why you discover that it's leading to a hike in prices of goods and services because when you look at your simple economics factor of production, and by the time you consider all the expenses you made when it comes to your production, looking at sourcing for capital, you discover for you to stay in business, you have to add the cost to the cost of operation so that you can survive. So most of the time, business owners now thinking of survival rather than breaking even when it comes to profitability. And so it's a great challenge. Then he also talked about the issue of fuel subsidy. You remember, somebody now say, oh, fuel subsidy is now becoming a suspect in every conversation in Nigeria. Yet it is because it's the basis for all, when it comes to the issue of transport. If you need to move your good from one place to the other, if, for instance, you're moving a good from here to another place, maybe before now it's going to cost you like 50,000 naira, but now you have almost triple of that, like 150 naira, and you're going to add, that's going to add to the cost of operation.
The consumer at the end of the day pays for it, and for those companies that the multinational companies, access to forests and repatriating their funds became a very big challenge, and some of them could not continue over a long period of time. They had to exit or relocate to other places where ease of business was really easier to do business than it had become in Nigeria. And he's talked about some things that the government will need to do in order to maybe bring some of those companies back or to make Nigeria an attractive destination for foreign direct investment, and that's very important. But what I think that in all of this, now the indigenous companies may not have the capacity right now to fill the vacuum, but there is need to develop the capacity of these indigenous companies. We have our guests back with us, Dr. Femi Egbeshola, who is the president of the Association of Small Business Owners in Nigeria, who will speak to us more on the things that can be done to strengthen the small, medium enterprises in Nigeria to fill the vacuum and even to expand into other things. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. Now, there is a UNDP $1 billion innovation fund that will be given to Nigerian startups. In what way do you think that this will help as we look at expansion and even filling the vacuum of the multinationals that have exited the country?
Well, that's a very good initiative in the right direction. For example, in our association, our slogan is "Start small and grow big." That's the best way to grow it. Even in nature, you start small and grow big. The best way to improve our economy and grow the critical sector of this economy, which is the MSME sector, is to begin to encourage the startups, support them, and hold them, and give them all the necessary support they need to be able to grow, to become medium and large companies later. That's the way to go. So this initiative of this funding program to support startups, to me, is one of the best initiatives that we can have in our time. I am in support of it, I am proud of it, and I am happy it is coming this time. However, the challenge that we always have over time when it comes to funding like this, particularly to startups, is that most times it doesn't really get to the real startups. We have the real startups, we have the political startups, people who are not really in business, but when funding programs are available, they come up and show themselves to be business owners, and at the end of the exercise, they get even more funding than those who are in the real sector. That's a big challenge that the government needs to address, and the funders also need to address when it comes to funding startups. These startups are the vulnerable ones. They have very difficult challenge getting funds from the regular banks. They do not have collateral. They do not have all the wherewithal it takes to get funding from the regular banks. Also, too, even if they have, the interest rate of the banks at the moment does not support startup businesses. And even the banks are also adverse for startups. So any alternative funding coming from other clients is a welcome initiative that will help us grow the startup in Nigeria. But another concern we have is that if we look at the startup acts in Nigeria, it supports more of tech businesses, ICT businesses. And the kind of businesses we have in Nigeria supersede that of tech. At a deeper look, you discover that it also supports other businesses, but are technology driven. If we want to focus only on that, can I go on?
Please go ahead, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. If you want to focus only on tech-driven businesses that are startups, a lot of other businesses will be marginalized. Nigeria is still growing when it comes to technology. We have so many businesses that have not been able to imbibe technology as much as they should, but they also need some form of support and handholding. I do hope that this funding will go to those people or sector too, and not those that are addressed by just the Startup Acts of 2022 that we have in the operation at the moment. So if this is done, it's going to massively grow the startup industry. We have quite a number of our youths that are yearning to start businesses, but the major problem or challenge has been access to finance. So if this is coming up, it will help us to actually grow the startup sector. And it is a startup sector that will later metamorphose to small businesses, to medium businesses, and eventually to large businesses. If we have enough indigenous large businesses in the country, we will not need to have these multinationals here. And if they leave, they will have little or no effect on us because the vacuum or the gap will not be there.
All right. Now, let's look at something similar to this, which is the proposed $200 million grant for SME startups in Nigeria, which is what the Vice President talked about, last week, that women will be given the 50% proposal for women who are in businesses. What do you make of this kind of scheme, and then what can be done differently? Because you raised a concern earlier that you have political SMEs or business owners, and you discover that most of the time these funds get to them and we don't get to the real, SME or the players in that sector. What should be done differently? And I would like to know, what's your association doing in this regard to hold government accountable? Because you're also part of the critical stakeholders in this sector. So what do you do to ensure that you hold government accountable, and then what can they do differently this time around so that the expected result is being achieved?
Thank you. Before I talk about what should be done differently, I also want to, first of all, commend the initiative to give 50% of this fund to women. Women are part of the very vulnerable sector we have, and they need all the support that government or other institutions can give to them. The research shows that the funding we've had since 2013 till date, most often than not, it is only 6% of women that are able to access those funds. That's a figure that is so low and is a cause for concern. And at the moment, we have about 40% of businesses being owned by women. So if 40% of the entire business owners can only access 6%, then that's not good enough. So for us to have an initiative whereby the policy is that 50% of the fund will be earmarked for women-led businesses is a good way to actually incentivize that sector and make them come to par with their male counterparts. And of course, women are good business owners. They are one of the highest rated when it comes to loan repayments and loan commitments, which will eventually also grow economy if we can grow the women-led sector. Now talking about how we can do it differently so that this fund will actually get to the women or to the youths or to startups, for the other one that we mentioned before. One way we can do that is by ensuring that government works with the critical stakeholders. Many of these businesses are registered with one form or the other of different business membership association or organizations that we have. Our own is one of such. We have been doing a lot of advocacy to government for the past 3 years now. We've spent so much time, energy, resources, and money to advocate to government that when you do any policy program or initiative towards this sector, carry the stakeholders along. For example, if you want to do funding for women or for startups, we would have expected governments to come through business membership organization to look at our data and see if we really have this sector in our data. Those who are really business owners that are women or that are youths or that are startups that should be able to benefit directly from this fund. The beauty of collaborating with stakeholders like our association, for example, is that we already have a big database for these people. We have already done a lot of profiling for them. We already have their KYC with us, and a lot of information about them are already with us. And we will be able to monitor the funding, the implementation of the fund, and the evaluation of what is done with the fund over time when it is being released. At the moment now, most times, government release money to so-called business owners, and that becomes the end. Nobody comes again to see, to ask questions. How was the money used? Was it used for its intended purpose? What is the success rate of the loan or grants or whatever it is? What should be done differently based on the result and data generated from the research done on those that have been given the fund to? That has not been done at the moment, and has not been done for a long time. But we believe that if there's enough collaboration with stakeholders, all of this will be achieved. Government will be able to have more data to work with. They'll be able to monitor and evaluate what is being done. And those results will help us to see if this kind of funding is actually the way to go, or we should change the format or model that is being used or the methodology that is being used in future. And that will help us to get maximum result and efficiency from the fund that is being released.
All right. So for the women businesses or women-led businesses that will benefit from this, are there particular businesses that you think should be targeted with this fund?
I would have preferred that the most vulnerable of the women-led businesses should be the one that would get quite a sizable percentage of the fund. And these are those that are in nano and micro businesses. Nano and micro businesses form about 98% of the total businesses we have today, meaning about the 2% or 3% left are for those that are in medium and large businesses. So since this form the core of the businesses. The nano, the micro businesses are the core of the businesses we have. They're based on data that we have available to us in Nigeria. This fund should go to that sector. Incidentally, most of these players in this sector are most times or often than not structured. They may not be very literate enough. They are more or less either illiterate or semi-illiterate. So there must be a model that should be put in place to understand the needs of those in this category, the funding needs of those in this category, to be able to address those needs directly, and to be able to ensure that these people have their capacity built to be able to use this fund efficiently and be able to pay back if it is a loan. Also, too, they should be able to aggregate this sector in a way that they will be formed into different clusters, based on their different nature of businesses, and this will help to ensure proper monitoring of the fund. If you ask me today, those that are into petty trading, those that are into artisan works, those that are into micro agriculture works, those that are into very small light manufacturing businesses should be those that should get this funding at the moment. And these are the core businesses that are being done by those nano and micro sector. They are the one that needs the fund the most.
All right, as we wrap up, I would like you to highlight some of the critical steps the federal government needs to take in the year 2024 to help the plight of business owners, specifically looking at the plight of small business owners in Nigeria. What are the critical steps that government needs to take to help them stay in business given this reality?
The first is that more attention should be paid to our policy. Our policy should be in a direction that will grow the economy and will address the number of challenges that we have in the economy. Another thing is that ease of doing business should be promoted in all fronts. One of it is the issue of Forex. Forex issues has to be addressed. Infrastructure has to be addressed. Infrastructure, particularly when it comes to power and road. Access to finance to businesses, particularly to micro and small businesses, must improve. Corruption must be tackled headlong, and the economy should be done in a way that it will be predictable. Structured organizations should be able to plan and predict what will happen to their business in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Short, medium, and long-term plan will be based on this predictability. In our economy today, it is difficult to predict anything because you don't even know the price of anything in the next day. You cannot tell the price of fuel in the next day. It can increase or you cannot predict the price of Forex tomorrow. You cannot predict anything. And that makes it impossible for you also to be able to predict what will happen to your business. Insecurity too must be tackled with. Insecurity must be improved. Businesses will not thrive where we do not have security. So this has to be worked on. Another issue is the issue of taxes. Many of the organizations today have died because of the multifaceted issues we have with taxes. We have a lot of issues and the conversations around taxes. This has to be addressed. Then again, as I did mention, government must learn to work with or collaborate with the different stakeholders in the different sectors of the economy that they are really working with. And that's the only way we can actually grow our economy. We must work with the stakeholders. They are the ones that wear the shoes, they know where the shoe pinches, they know the exact problems and challenges faced by the MSMEs or the business owners in that sector, and they can offer a workable solution and possibilities to government that will help draft policies that will be in tandem with the realities of today. These are some of the issues that we need government to address. If these issues are addressed, and we have round pegs in round hole in government, not square peg in round hole, I believe our problems or our challenges will be solved. Ease of doing business must be promoted at all times. At the moment, we don't have it yet.
Now, some businesses may need these grants and funds coming, but they may not be eligible for it. So how can businesses position themselves to be eligible for grants and funds?
Well, the first thing I will advise any business owner to do is to join any accredited, registered business membership organizations that we have. At the moment, we have about 13 of us, that are of natural relevance, that are accredited and registered. The MSMEs, business owners, needs to find their way to their umbrella. Why? Because we're able to build the capacities of all these business owners to be able to position them for any opportunities, be it grant, fund, loans, or whatever support that may come. Positioning them would mean building their capacity, helping them to get the kind of certification that they should have for their businesses, the kind of documentation that they need to have for their businesses, the kind of education and accountability they need to possess for their businesses. These are many more are being done for these business owners. We prepare them and position them for funds and grants and other support services. And when they come, they are able to get it because they've been able to build themselves up and being ready for it. For those who do not belong to an association, and still choose not to belong to any association, they just must begin to build their capacity themselves too. They must see need to continue to attend different symposia, workshops, and seminars on capacity building programs to see if I am actually in tandem with what I need to have as certification, as documentation in business, and the kind of orientation that I also need to have as a business owner. It takes a lot to have all of this, but the business membership organizations have taken it upon themselves to continually educate their members with this information. That is the only way that they can benefit. No doubt, government or any other institution will not want to throw money into the bush by giving it to people who are not prepared for it. On the other hand, too, government needs to also find a way of building capacity of business owners, particularly the micro and the nano sector or the startups too. They need to be intentional about building their capacity so that they can also be positioned for different kind of opportunities. Opportunities are not coming from government alone. They're also coming from different international organizations. You will remember that the World Bank, in the middle of last year, released billions of dollars to support MSMEs in Nigeria. Africa Development Bank also released billions of naira to support MSMEs in Nigeria. It is only those who have the right documentation, the right certificates, the right positioning that will benefit from it. And because of this, you discover that the same set of people are always the ones getting this grant, which is not right. The same set of people are the ones getting this loan too, which is not right. Other people should get, but they are not getting because they are not positioned right enough for it. This should be a concern for the BMOs, that is the business membership organizations, for the individual business owners themselves, and also for the government.
Thank you very much, Dr. Femi Egbeshola, President of the Association of Small Business Owners in Nigeria, ASBON, for talking with us this morning on the business and economic environment in Nigeria. You've been very, very helpful in providing insights into some of the issues affecting the business environment in Nigeria, and you've also proffered solutions to some of these challenges. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's the show today, with the hope that the right things will be done by everyone. We began the show looking at long-term strategy for climate, nature, and energy, because it's a global issue. So you and I have a roles to play. What are those actions that we need to do, that we need to take collectively, individually, to ensure that the Earth is habitable for us? We do not know of any other planet at the moment where we can all relocate to and have life as we do right now on Earth. So we must preserve it. And then for businesses, it is not enough for you to say you need the money. What are those actions that you must take? What are those things that you must do to ensure that you are eligible for every loan, grant, and even fund that come your way? And you should make sure that you use them judiciously. For every challenge, there is an opportunity. Yes, multinationals may have left, but what can the local businesses do to fill that vacuum? That's been the show today. I am Blessing Aiche. We ask that you join us again tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time.
And from me to you, nobody succeeds in isolation, so you need to develop the right association for you to succeed. Success can be achieved if you have the right company. Don't forget, this program returns tomorrow, and then Business Insight is coming up at 11. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Welcome to News Update. I am Grace Komolafe. As part of effort to eliminate double taxation for businesses and investors, as well as strengthen economic ties between Nigeria and the UAE, Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, says the federal government has approved a new taxation agreement with the United Arab Emirates, UAE. Fagbemi announced this after the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu. According to him, the approved Nigeria-UAE double tax treaty will be forwarded to the National Assembly for ratification. The agreement, which covers various taxes, needs the National Assembly to elevate it to a formal treaty. Additionally, the Council also approved the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, IPPA, and the Ministry of Trade and Investment would review and amend sectors of the agreement. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates on Souq News.